Again here for the Strike Zone podcast. We may be undergoing a rebrand here soon. So for now, the Strike Zone podcast, hosted by me, I'm Joe Herzog. And today I've got Jace with me. How's it going, Jace?
Hi guys, good. How are you?
I'm great. And we got Big Joe S out in New York. How's it going, Joe?
Good. How are you guys?
I'm
Excellent.
excited. I'm excited, and I thought for today's podcast, well, first of all, I got to meet Jace in person a couple weeks ago,
He's a
which
celebrity
was
in and of
very
its own.
exciting. Yeah, I mean, it's one of those where you interact on Twitter 100 times, and you're like, how is this person in real life? So now I know that Jace is indeed a real person. I was not being
Yes.
catfished via Twitter.
Ford fish.
And
Right.
yeah, and so what brought us together was the Detroit Auto Show. We met up there. And so I figure since Joe didn't get a chance to make it, my thought was we talk him through all the cool stuff we experienced, and I guess kind of debrief on what we saw and what has us excited. Does that feel like an okay itinerary for the night, Jace?
Yeah, sounds great to me.
I'm excited to hear.
Yeah, Joe, have you been to an auto show before? Because this was basically my first time, so I was seeing it with fresh eyes.
Yeah, so my first one was back in March. I went to the auto show in New York City in the Javits Center. Ford had me there for the press day. They didn't release any new vehicles or anything like that. It was just the normal. They had the Lightning, the Mach-E, the new Mustang. Actually, they did. They released the Dark Horse there, and we actually got to ride in it around New York City, which was a wild ride. But my 6'8" giant body was able to fit in that. But yeah, that was my. I've gone there a couple times. That's the second time I've been there. So
Sweet. And I feel like, Jace, when we were walking around, I was looking to you because I know you've been to auto shows. Like, this was not your first time at this rodeo.
No, definitely. First time at the Detroit Auto Show, but have been to a few others before. Yeah, it was really cool. Just a great experience to see. I thought the Lincoln booth, just like that's what sticks out in my mind the most. I thought the Lincoln place was amazing. It just looked so cool. They had like coffee and you just like smelled up the place. It was really, really cool. But the Ford booth was awesome too. Mustang Mach-E rally for the first time, which was in person, and that was, oh my gosh, that thing, it's so much better looking in person in my opinion. Like you can see how much higher it sits off the ground, that ground clearance. Like it's a really cool car.
that's awesome.
Yeah, and that just goes to show how much there was to see at this auto show because I
Mm-hmm.
don't even remember the Lincoln booth and I think I was so honed in on all the cool stuff that Ford announced in those 3 days that the space we were in, I don't even know that I made it to the Lincoln booth. So sacrilege on my part. But
Yeah.
Ford unveiled a lot of cool stuff. And so Jace and I figured it's best to attack this chronologically. That way
Yep.
we can't possibly miss anything important. So I'm actually going to kick it to Jace because you touched down in Detroit before me, and so while I was on a
Yes.
plane getting ready to land, you were already experiencing the Detroit Auto Show, specifically the Ford F-150 reveal.
Yeah. So great time landing in Detroit, getting into town. Basically, we kind of had some time to get ready and headed to the F-150 Fest, which was so cool. Kind of the first annual, if you will, it seemingly.
Oh,
I'm hoping at least that's kind of the vibes that I got, or something to that effect. It was a really crazy cool event. Lots of people there. Joe was able to meet us there at one point.
that one.
That Joe, yes, was able to meet us there, and such a cool thing seeing the multifunction tailgate and getting to chat with everyone and getting to see everyone that was joining in, and it was a really, really cool event. And Darius Rucker at the end was super cool too.
Oh, that's awesome. I didn't know that. I got to ask you though about the tailgate. I'm super intrigued by it, and all I've seen is videos. What do
Sure.
you think? What's your personal preference on that?
Yeah,
Especially
we
using
kinda,
yours as a work truck.
Yeah. No, we didn't get to really see it up close in person. Like we didn't get to touch it or anything, but
No.
we did, kind of IRL, so to speak. Looks great. I mean, I think it almost makes, now that we have Lightnings, right? The frunk is amazing. Everybody loves the frunk, so
Mhm.
accessible, blah, 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 blah. This is almost like making the frunk into the bed now, right? Like you that accessibility of just opening that
Right,
middle
where it's like hip level. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just gonna, it's gonna be just like the frunk, which is to me like huge,
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and I think, I mean, obviously we're all Lightning owners, so we're having similar experiences with our trucks, but I think the reason that the F-150 Fest was eye-opening is that, I mean, these are all F-150s at heart, and so I'd like to think that innovations that we see on the ICE F-150, we could see transferring over to the Lightning, in the future, you never know.
Absolutely.
And so, yes, the multifunction tailgate, I totally forget the trademarked title that they've given it.
yeah,
But
yeah, me too, actually.
So to build on Jace's point, that night we did not get to get up close and personal, but they did. I don't know if you got to see this the next day, Jace, at the auto show. They had, I think, the new F-150 Tremor, and that one was on the floor with the tailgate, and I was so eager to play with it because I had a lot of questions about it.
I wish I would have ran over there. There's, again, like you said, there was just so much stuff. It's funny, we were in the same group and we still, went separate. So it's funny.
Yes. Well, I mean, it was only 20 feet away from the Mach-E rally, and so, I mean, it was very easy to get distracted by something new and exciting. But then the other feature that they were kind of showing off with that truck, and I don't know if it already exists for F-150s currently, but it was that rail system with the dividers like built into the bed. Did you get to see this, Jace, in person, or did you see it in the video? Is this ringing any bells?
We might have lost him.
We lost Jace. Well, until he returns, he may be talking right now. As he figures out his, and we're back. He's flagging me.
Back. LOL.
You've returned.
Okay.
So, did you get to see the bed divider, like in the video at F-150 Fest?
Ooh.
Like, did that jump out to you at all?
It did, but I didn't get to see it in person, but I did see that.
One of the other people in our group and I were kind of playing with it, and we may or may not, we didn't break it on the floor, but we were trying to figure out how it like disconnected and reconnected. And at one point we just put our hands up. We're like, we're just going to wait till it comes out for consumers.
Yeah.
Because we don't want to break the only one out there. But that was a really cool
They've been looking for you.
Heads-up display really stuck out to me. Heads-up display.
Yes.
On the windshield?
It came to the F-250 earlier this year, or even maybe last year or something like that. I think it was earlier this year. And now it's made its way into F-150, and so I'm for that. I think that'll be cool.
Very cool.
Is that something, Jace, you would equip on your Lightning if you could? Like, is that a feature that you feel like you're missing?
I've never owned a heads-up display vehicle. I think I've driven a couple where but it was like really rudimentary, like, just shot up like the speed limit. There was no like direction. I don't know. Yeah, I don't really know. I would want to use it. I think for like long haul trips, it could be convenient. People that tow, I know that, like F-250, drivers really and requested it, so that you're not looking down as often. And a bunch of other reasons, I'm sure. But I don't know. It's interesting, but it looks really cool. So I'd love to try it out.
That would be amazing with Blue Cruise because you wouldn't have to look down. You know what I mean? Like
exactly.
That would be huge for me. But that's like the one point I think that it would sell it for me for the Lightning.
Yeah.
Sure. And then, like you said, with towing, I'm always looking out the mirrors, windshield mirrors. You know what I mean? Like I'm always looking back. So having something right there at the same spot, I wouldn't have to worry about it. But
yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and I think to build on your guys' points, it's all about what they can do with it. Like, what utility can they bring to it? Because we've seen heads-up displays before. So I haven't personally owned one. But what jumps to my mind is just a digital speedometer and maybe turn-by-turn directions.
Sure.
Directions would be gold. I get lost all the time because I'm way too distracted and drive right by the turn.
Yeah. But then when, like Joe points out, if you're incorporating Blue Cruise functionality into that, or maybe even like alerts, touch the wheel or whatever, I think the sky is the limit with that. I'm glad you remembered that, Jace. But I mean, so that night we saw a new F-150. And at the same time they debuted, was it the Tremor and then the Raptor moments later?
Yep. The Tremor really stuck out to me. Actually, I really love the grill on it. I think it just looks... it looks great. I think the Tremor is really like that would be what I'd go for if I was going in that direction. unless I had Raptor,
Right.
maybe one day.
Well, so one thing that jumped out to me is they've also got my 12-inch infotainment screen across the lineup now, is what it would appear.
Yep.
Um, which I love to see. Having experienced it every day, I know it's the best infotainment that I've used ever.
Sure.
So
No, 12
seeing
inch
that
is
they're
great.
bringing that, seeing that they're bringing that across the lineup is awesome, and eager to hear what else they have planned with that. Like, I don't know, did they mention wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto? Like, would it be
Should be standard with
right?
do you get it with the 12-inch? You get wireless and Android, or
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
So yeah, should be
yeah.
standard no matter what you go with.
Hmm.
Yeah, should be standard there. I would hope. I don't know about the lower trims, possibly, but
Right.
hopefully though.
Yeah, and then finally they unveiled the new Raptor, which of course looks as mean as ever. They debuted a new color, which is green. It's like a dark
like a
green.
metallic dark
Ooh.
green. Yeah, it's a really nice color. It's great.
Wow.
Really, really cool color. Like almost copper tints to it.
Oh yeah.
Hmm.
Really cool.
It reminds me of like a snake that you would see maybe in the desert, like something.
Yeah.
It's got that sheen to it, but it's still like aggressive in a way.
Effervescence, if you will,
Yeah.
almost in a certain sense.
And the only reason I bring up the color is because I feel like before we took delivery of our Lightnings, that was one of the things we debated most heavily, is what color you're going to pick, and then them deleting a color. So you have to wonder, does that color ever make it to a Lightning? Or does that stay a Raptor exclusive? We don't know. We'll have to wait and see.
Yep.
What other big takeaways from F-150 Fest? I walked in about an hour later than you probably, Jace.
Yeah.
But also like right as the curtain was coming up on hearing them speaking about the new F-150s. I was hoping for a little nugget of something Lightning related, but they were definitely leaning into the ice side of things that night, but still a really cool event.
I get the impression there'll be a separate debut for the 2024 Lightning, maybe not as large fest or something like that, but I think there'll be some sort of some sort of keynote or something like that for the 2024 Lightning, some sort of reveal. So kind of what features maybe possibly carry over from the 2024 ice truck. It'll be, I can't wait to see, honestly. I'm really excited. So we sort of get a peek into, it looks like the 20, what the 24s are looking like with the platinum black, some people have already pointed out, like on the one side, the charge port door is gone. So yeah, and that was another vehicle that we got to see at the auto show, which was so cool to see.
It's awesome, isn't it? I got to see that in Brooklyn.
Got to see that. That's right as well. Yeah. So that was really cool, and having Mike there, Black who has an awesome Matt Lightning, the guy who started it all, I guess, sort of in a certain sense, right? To have him there and see it, I just thought that was really neat.
He loves that truck. We were talking at Brooklyn, and he made mention. He's like, I should probably get badge number 0 since you copied on my truck, right? I was like, yeah, you definitely should. Yeah, that's definitely your truck, man. So that platinum black is gorgeous.
Yeah, and I like the little changes, the little lightning, badges and the glow in the dark on the back there, and the lightning on the
just going to ask you if you looked up at the sunroof. That was my favorite part.
Super, super cool. Yeah. And the badging too, like you were saying, the numbered badging. I think that is so cool to have one of 2,000.
Crazy.
I won't be having one, sadly.
No, me neither.
You know who will probably end up in one, though, let's be honest, is Sergio. Like, the moment he sees something that he wants, he's like, I got to upgrade, guys. My hands are tied.
I see him maybe in a platinum black Lightning, and then maybe a Mustang Mach-E Rally as well. So.
Oh, yeah. I learned while we were at the show, I got to meet Sergio in person, just like many other people, which was really exciting. Sergio
He's
Rodriguez,
great, isn't he?
but also
he's the best.
He is. But also, he is a man who cares about his numbers and his performance. Like, he was talking to Ford people. He's like, when am I going to get that half second back on the 0 to 60 with this Mustang?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. And he's, I think he demands the best out of his vehicles, and the Mach-E excites him because he's like, is this going to get me that track time that I need?
Mm-hmm.
So speaking about the wrapping up F-150 Fest, we bumped into Mike Levine.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, it was a who's who. Like, it hadn't hit me that I was at a big event until you start literally rubbing shoulders with like Mike Levine, and you're like, there's another person I've seen on Twitter 1,000 times, and here he is in the flesh.
Yeah.
And he
Yeah.
was so gracious and just like, what do you think of the truck? Like, you could tell he was excited about it. And then you turn around and you've got the Ford video guy from YouTube. Like, I was
Oh, yeah.
recognizing
Oh,
the guy from, yeah.
Mr. Farley was there too, indeed.
Yeah.
There himself. I don't know if you know that, but I did not see him, but I know he was there. So yeah, it was a
But
really
somebody
cool
got a picture with him.
Yes, Liv, I believe, did get a picture.
There you go.
He scoped
Right
him out
place at the right
somewhere.
time.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. And so then we took a big group photo, which was so cool. And then as we were exiting, I didn't notice this when I walked in. I was probably in a rush, but they had like 100 years of F-150s kind of lined
Yeah.
up.
Whoa.
Super cool.
That is
All the
cool.
way from older to newer. There were some really cool examples. I wish I would have gotten some more pictures myself, but there was a lot of talking going. We were all kind of catching up, chatting. So and the lines were crazy for food and stuff. So but it was a really cool, really cool event. So
yeah, I think one of a kind, because you could tell you were also nestled among Ford employees that had worked on these cars behind the scenes, and they were eager to see how people reacted to it. So
yeah.
a really cool way to kick off these 3 days. So then we hit the hay, and I hope you have the itinerary pulled up, Jace, because I'm a bad podcast host. And I know we started the next day, if I remember correctly, we hopped on a van and went directly to our first scheduled agenda item was to go to the auto show.
Correct. Yes, and see the Mustang Mach-E Rally and the Platinum Black F-150 Lightning. Super cool to see that. We got to talk to a few of the lead engineers, and Dave Parasek, the head of Ford EV Trucks, was there, giving us a rundown of the Platinum Black Lightning. Super gracious, of them to really dig into the details and let us see it in person. Yeah, it was awesome. But also to go to the Detroit Auto Show for the first time, I thought that was just really neat. The booths and not a ton of EV representation. We still need to kind of work on that, obviously. But I would say up front and open.
I'm surprised that there wasn't that much EV representation. I thought I heard a lot of announcements that were going to be coming out there with the other automakers. I mean, obviously, like Ford doesn't have anything new coming out yet, but.
So there were some, we had, cumulatively a good number of hours to walk around that showroom floor. And while Jace is pulling up, I'm guessing the itinerary or photos, there were some, like the Sierra EV Denali was there. That was the first time we got to see that in person, which seeing that was cool. And I'm not going to get on a soapbox here, but it also highlighted how far ahead Ford is in this process. Because truly, I was like, yeah, this thing from GMC looks cool and it will be the right truck for a lot of people. But I'm like, I'm driving one. Like, I'm in one. I'm driving to work every day. And
those aren't even close to being on the road yet.
Right. And the Silverado EV was there. And again, very cool truck in person. And it's always an eye grabber. It was in black this time. We may have lost Jace again.
Yeah, we definitely did.
However, and we're back.
Guys, I don't know. I'll have to figure this out for next time. I'm literally, my router is like behind me. So,
are you having weather?
No. It is really cloudy, but yeah, I'll probably wire directly in next time. Hopefully that'll fix the issue. But anyway, where were we?
So I was just saying the Sierra EV Denali was there, which I think is the first time I saw it in person. I don't know that. That may have been the first time anyone had seen it in person. But what I was saying to Joe is that seeing that truck highlighted for me how far ahead Ford is in this process when you think about it, because they're still not in production, whereas we're driving ours every day.
Open the doors even. I don't know if it was the same on the Sierra, but the Silverado EV, you couldn't even. Yeah.
They wouldn't let you open the doors?
Oh no, it was completely walled off with a glass, little barrier.
Oh yeah, it was the same in New York in March.
Yeah, and we're kind of asking him questions. She's like, "Yeah, it's going on into production in just a few weeks," and I'm like, "So why can't we, touch it and look at it?" If it's just a couple weeks, but that's yeah, and I think you're right. Ford really does have so much of a head start, right? You're seeing variants now of Lightnings, right? I mean,
Correct me if I'm wrong. I thought the Silverado was supposed to be out by this summer. I guess this past summer.
I think they did quote like originally just the 4W4LT or whatever that one trim is. It's like 75,000. I mean, it's a massive battery. I mean, I guess I think it's close. I really do. I think it's in production technically now, but I guess it's not on sale yet.
Yeah. And just the amount of battery that they're putting into those, it just it's too much, honestly. It's they're going for miles on the truck instead of an infrastructure update. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Well, this ties in nicely because just today I saw a video from TFL EV, and they did their towing test with the Silverado. And my general impression, I'm disclaiming, I did not watch the video, but the summary that I read was that, of course, it had the most impressive towing miles that we've seen, but also when you look at the size of the battery, it kind of lined up with what you would expect. I think they said they went 240 miles towing their trailer. So super respectable, but also, as Joe points out, they're achieving that with a whole chunk of battery. So
it's no super high efficiency gain, basically.
Right.
But so, I think something for Ford to be proud of as these other electric trucks pop up. It's like you said, we're already into various trims and limited editions of the Lightning. And so every time I saw an electric truck, sure, my mouth watered a little bit, but then it's like, we jumped onto a train that was leaving the station almost first. So I was really proud of people that, if someone was drooling over the Denali EV, it was cool to be like, we've already kind of joined that chapter of the EV revolution. So,
right.
What else jumped out at you, Jace? You said you got to hit the Lincoln stand. What else were the big takeaways from the auto show that you got to see?
Yeah, I just thought it was really cool. I thought the setup was great. The building was really, really cool. Just seeing all the booths and stuff, it was a good time. So after we saw the Mach-E rally and then saw the Lightning Platinum Black, I had to skedaddle relatively quickly because I did the Blue Cruise 1.3 drive. Mm-hmm. I guess we did go to lunch first, though, didn't we? Then we went to lunch and then, we did the Blue Cruise 1.3 drive, so I was kind of in a rush to get back to that. Did you go back to the show again, Joe?
I did.
Okay, yeah, I did not go back to the show again. So I went to do the Blue Cruise 1.3 drive, which I was like amazed by. I mean, I was blown away. I cannot wait for that to hit the Lightning and / Mach-E.
What's funny about that is I got a text message from whoever was running that. Hey, we're running a little late. We'll meet you there. And I'm like, I didn't make it. I'm not there. Story. I was like, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm really bummed that I missed out. And I really wanted to try driving that 1.3.
Yeah,
I'm looking forward to that.
Impressive. Very, very impressive.
It was on the truck or the Mustang?
Mustang, the Mustang, a GT Performance Edition, so that was kind of fun. So that was super cool. But no ping pong whatsoever. That was super stable in the lanes. The scooch was really cool. I got to get next to a semi and felt the scooch, and you can see it right there in the.
That's awesome.
In the instrument cluster. I was blown away. I mean, we love Blue Cruise 1.0 so much. Obviously, I've tweeted about it a million times. We use it in our road trips. I know you guys do as well, or you do, Joe.
Use it every morning.
Yeah, sorry, I don't want to rub it in anyway.
Don't rub it in.
Sorry, I won't. We love 1.0, and so cannot wait to get 1.2/3, whatever makes its way to us, and hopefully we're hearing by the end of the year. So hopefully that will happen. But as long as Ford gets us to it safely, and that's
listen, the rate of over-the-air updates that the EAP has gotten today, I think we're in good hands here.
Yeah, they're moving quick, right?
Yeah.
And I'm noticing like charge assist was huge. I'm super excited that we get to talk about that now.
Yeah, that was really cool.
We're kind of going off topic a little bit, but that rolling out was so fast and super cool to see people. I had a couple people actually on Twitter and Facebook say like, when you said it, I thought, oh, it'll be so long before I get it. And I looked at my drawer today and boom, there it was,
Oh, really? They already have it out?
Yep, people. It's already rolling out now.
Wow.
So I've talked to a few people that just didn't even realize they had it yet.
Yeah.
You just go home, press the home button, and it's in the app drawer there. And something super super cool that people can use right now that will really help. I know for myself, I go get a haircut down the street here, and they have a ChargePoint charger, and it was a pain in the butt to open to ChargePoint app and blah blah blah. Sometimes I use the Ford Blue Ford Pass, but usually I just was, going on the ChargePoint app real quick and trying to activate it. And it usually worked, but it was just never quite right? And now I've just been using the Charge Assist. It's awesome. I just activate it, boom, plug in, I end it, it charges right to my Ford Pass app and my Blue Oval, card. And it's really cool.
What I found was a game changer with the Charge app there on the truck was when it's raining. It's a game changer. You're not standing out in the rain waiting for the damn thing to start up. It's already ready to go. You just get out, plug in, get back in, and it's good to go.
Yeah.
That was at least on Electrify America. That's how I was able to do that. I loved it. It just another. It's like having a new feature of your truck that you didn't have when you bought it. You can't
just
say
another
enough.
option.
Yeah.
Especially for charging, it's important.
So for any viewers that aren't familiar with Charge Assist, is that what it's called?
Yes.
Yep.
Can you kind of give them the elevator pitch for why they should be looking forward to it, maybe? Like, what is it?
Yeah, it's essentially an app that is on Mackeys and Lightnings that basically allows you to activate a charger from within your infotainment display. So as opposed to using an app or a credit card reader or perhaps the Ford Pass app, which it works very similarly to that. It's just instead of doing it on your phone, you're simply doing it from the truck. But really cool, it shows you the real-time status of the station. So like if you're, if one perhaps may be broken or you're next to somebody and it's it will tell you that and you can, clearly see what's going on in it automatically. So you just open the app and it will automatically find those chargers that are closest to you. You don't have to do you can search, I believe, in some form or fashion, but do it. It finds them, it's if you're within 10 feet, it knows. So, and then you just activate it and press literally activate. It was in my experience, a few seconds, maybe at the most 10 time.
Yeah, I was just like 10 or 15 seconds tops. There wasn't anything.
One time I had to go really quick. One time it was a little bit slower. I think it just kind of depends. But you press activate and it just, pops the handle, ready to release, at least on the charge point that I was using, and put it in and just starts charging. And, at the end, it just unplug and ends the charge and, charges your account.
You get the email that you've been charged.
Yeah. So just another option. Like I said, it works very similarly to your phone, Ford Pass app, just doing it from the truck.
Yeah. Well, I can't speak for anyone with Sync 4A, but I can speak for myself with Sync 4 or vice versa. I have not, to my knowledge, gotten a software update since I took delivery of my truck. And so I guess my constructive feedback, having heard that you guys got an update, I guess my thought is there a page in the Ford Sync system that says, here's your software version, and that way I can go to a different resource and check if I'm up to date? Does that exist?
You have a 23, right, Joe? Joseph?
I do.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was just trying to remember. So, nothing official here, but from what I hear, Ford sends updates to older trucks first, to get them updated. Some from 23 may have been installed in the factory. That's very possible. But that's pretty typical for most automakers. The newer cars get updated last, so to speak, or later on than the older ones.
They also do it in batches too. It's not all at the same time.
Batches.
Yep. So you also have to remember, him and I are in the early access program, so we're getting these way ahead of anybody else.
Well, so is Joseph now too.
Oh, you are now.
Yes.
Well, and that further blurs the line a little bit.
Totally get it. Yeah. Totally get it. And I will say, the Ford team recognizes, though, I think there's a multitude of growing pains, right, that need to be solved. Release need to be better, right? We need, like you said, a crystal clear screen where you could go on and say, what was my last update? what's my current update, so to speak,
Yeah.
because the difference between those two, when was it? Because I find myself too, if I do get an update, it does kind of give you that last thing, but it doesn't necessarily give you like when that date was. So had I not taken a picture of my infotainment and just, and tweeted it out, I wouldn't know when that would have happened. So I agree with you. There could be some, definitely some better information. I will tell you the Ford team knows this. They are working hard on these things. I know lots of work is going into release notes and other things too. So they really want to improve the experience. So,
well, it's like the user interface we had when we first bought our trucks, the 2022s, was nowhere close to what it is now. They updated it within, I think, the first 6 months I had the truck, and it was such a amazing difference. So that they listen to their customers' feedback. I got
it's just so bad
about my feedback or about the software updates. And they're listening. They make changes. We were all begging for the percentage to be shown on the driver assistance page on the dashboard, and they've added it now. So they definitely hear us. It's just, again, if you heard Jim Farley, I think he was on. It was another podcast. I can't remember the name of it now, but he said, we have hundreds of different software and hardware that are coming together. We have to ask each manufacturer to change it. It takes a while to kind of catch up. So,
and do you have a different, model year? So that, totally plays into, you got to remember. I have people that like live in Canada and they're like, I didn't get that update. And I'm like, well, I don't know if Canada is going to get that update. So I don't, so there is definitely some, but I do see it as good problems. And I've kind of told the Ford team this as well. Like it's good stuff. People want these OTA updates, they want these things, and it's good stuff. But it definitely brings new challenges for the team, right? Like there's new rivers to cross, right? And stuff that maybe that Ford wasn't, quite used to before. So, it's definitely a different experience. They're working through it, but you being a different model year and having a different trim level, like you said, you do have Sync 4 versus Sync 4A. But I do know some people with Sync 4 that have gotten some updates, but these are 22s. So, but you being in early access, there's no secret in this. You will, you get the OTA updates early, and so as soon as the OTA updates are ready for your model year, you'll be first on the list.
Well, and I think to one, bring us back to the Detroit Auto Show, and two, build on your point, the overarching theme is that it would seem Ford is listening. Every person that we got to interact with over the course of those 3 days, which aren't literally too many to name, every single person was seeking feedback. That's what most of our conversations were about, which I found very exciting. Because the same reason you just said, they're looking on how to improve these products. They're not going to rest on how great they already are. So with that being said, we rewind to, this would be middle of day Wednesday, with the Blue Cruise ride-alongs, drive-alongs. I had go for it.
Sorry, I was going to say that's another perfect example of feedback. We did, I did cruise drive with an engineer, I believe a senior engineer or engineer on the Blue Cruise, team. We talked about kind of my experience right now with 1.0, what we love about it, what we don't love about it, and how this system felt different than that, and how they're still, continuously iterating now, over and over to, they have weekly releases, and that they shoot out to their vehicles to test them out. They used to do quarterly releases. So these things are all changing really quickly. But again, agree to provide feedback on current Blue Cruise, but also on this as brand new version that I had yet to experience.
Well, and I don't mean to hype up my own opinion, but this was the first time I set foot in a Mustang Mach-E. It happened to be the GT Performance. So right off the bat,
bar way too high.
Very much spoiled. But then I told the engineer that was in the passenger seat, I said, I've never experienced autonomous driving of any level or description.
Oh, right.
And so I think, and I told him I'm a Lightning owner, but we don't have Blue Cruise on my trim. And so I'd like to think that he got a unique perspective. Like, he got the opportunity to see somebody truly
Fresh
have
and
their
new.
first experience with 1.3.
That's cool.
There were, I'm sure, a bunch of people that, they brought in people to experience 1.0 and it was jarring because, what is Blue Cruise? But for them to get a fresh impression of this iteration that they're going to roll out, I think was unique for them and obviously unique for me. And not to go on too long about it, I was very impressed. Having seen a lot of discourse on the internet about self-driving technology and the pros and cons, I was nervous, only because I've never experienced it before, but very impressed and felt safe behind the wheel. But the one piece of feedback I'll give is that before I got behind the wheel, my co-partner, another visitor that was with us, I think his name was Will.
Will Stokes.
Maybe.
Taller guy?
Yes.
California?
No, he was from Texas. And I feel bad because I thought,
Matt.
No.
Matt. Sorry, Matt. Okay, so Matt was in the driver's seat. Yeah, and where I was going with that is I will admit that I felt a little more uneasy being a passenger of an autonomous vehicle than I did because when you're right there, you're like, I've got the brake pedal under my right foot. Like, I know I can intervene. So two very different experiences. So when I got behind the wheel, I was nervous having that experience fresh in my mind, but such a cool experience. And those roads in Detroit were not easy. They did not set this up on the baby course at all. I mean, my drive was at like 4:15. I mean, it was a crowded roadway.
Oh yeah.
And I'm like, okay, I don't want to wreck the GT performance. But I will also credit the engineer for putting my mind at ease and telling me exactly what I should expect the vehicle to do and what I should be expected to do as the driver, which I think is so important when we're getting into cars that are starting to drive themselves under your supervision.
Can I just point out that you were lucky enough to have a Ford engineer tell you what was to be expected, and I had 3 days of sheer panic behind the wheel for my first 3 days, just not knowing if I could trust it, and had to grow on my own to trust the truck. That's an advantage, and I'm a little jealous that you had somebody sitting there.
Well, but I think we can mine a nugget of information out of this. Like, maybe that's a valuable piece of the delivery experience for Ford customers is that they get the benefit of a supervised Blue Cruise experience before they take the truck home.
So from what I've heard, Ford's been going to the dealerships and actually giving these intensive trainings to the dealerships so they can actually do that. When I picked up my truck, I was teaching the dealership things about my 3-year-old was teaching them about my truck as I was signing the paperwork. That it's just it was so new and it's so quick to roll out. They didn't have a chance to really get their dealership network up and running on the same level as some of the owners that were excited to get these. So I know they're making strides to do that now. I from what I hear, there will be some really big news coming from the dealers in regards to joining the Model E program that they have for the dealer
model.
Yeah, and I was going to bring that up. So they're doing this intensive training at the dealerships in a changing landscape where we are transitioning to Model E dealers, and so it'll be interesting to see how the delivery experience changes over the next 5 years. Let's say, could be very different from what the three of us experienced. But yeah, my pin on Blue Cruise was very impressed, felt very safe behind the wheel, and it kind of made me want a Mach-E. It's a very different ride from a Lightning, but also not in a bad way.
GT Performance Edition is impressive too.
Starting to plant the seeds that
listen.
My wife needs one.
I mean, my wife's got a Mach-E on order because I bought a Lightning. It's addicting. She stole my truck one day while I was at work and took it out to Massachusetts, and she's like, it drives better on the highway because I could use Blue Cruise. I'm like, let's sign you up right now because that's it. You got the bug. So and that's another thing with the software updates you were mentioning, Joe. Her 2023 that we ordered will come with Blue Cruise 1.3, but there's still Mach-E's on the road that have 1.1, I think, if I remember correctly. 1.0. So, it's that coming straight out of the factory, it's easier for them to dump a software update into that hardware versus over the air, because you don't have to pack it into a small, package for the over the air, size.
Yeah,
and get into the computer. So
yeah, and Ford wants to make these smooth for people, right? I mean, these are mostly, newer users to OTAs for the most part. I mean, I know there's probably some Tesla owners that have dealt with them, or had them before. But, Ford's all about safety, right? We want to make sure that this goes through smoothly, that it's a good customer experience. We sort of dealt with some delays when Blue Cruise was coming to the Mach-E originally. I actually had 1 day of Blue Cruise sort of when I sold my Mach-E. It was like the day of my Mach-E. Yeah. So it was right at the same time. So we've dealt with some delays, but honestly, I'm okay with that. I'd rather they make the experience good for everybody, and I know they learn a lot from these experiences, right? They learn so much. So they're just applying these to the future, and I'm excited to get Blue Cruise 1. If it's 2 or 3, whatever it is on the Lightning. To see it roll out for the Mach-E's too.
Yeah.
Well, and it was also interesting to get the opportunity to, how often are you sitting across from a Ford engineer to just say, hey, I love this software. Why isn't it available for my Lightning? And to get a down to earth explanation it's like, okay, then I won't lose sleep over this anymore. Other than, it's just nice to hear it from the source and know that it is being worked on. But I do have a question for you guys about Blue Cruise. I never have the wherewithal to ask about it because I don't experience it every day. But what is the cost of Blue Cruise? Is it a one-time cost when you purchase the vehicle? Is it a monthly thing? And is it planned on being that, in eternity, or how does that work?
So our vehicles, Joe and I's vehicles, came with a 3-year trial of Blue Cruise. My Mach-E had a Blue Cruise as well. So those early adopters, that's huge. We'll have basically, to my knowledge, every version of Blue Cruise until that 3 years expires, and kind of go from there. What happens, but it is kind of pricing has changed. There was some thoughts that people had on the actual price increase. I thought it was a bit much, but I do see the value if Ford continues to iterate as they are. Now, I think OTAs would need to move a little bit more quickly. If I'm paying, I think is it $200 a month, Joe? Am I correct there?
I'm not sure. They've announced the prices for the Lightning. They announced it for the Mach-E, but I haven't seen anything for the Lightning yet.
So and I think they're still working on that a little bit. I don't want to speak for them, but it will be a paid subscription, I believe.
Yeah.
It is out for the Mach-E now at the 2023 model. I believe that will happen with the 2024 Lightning as well. But yes, $100 a year, I want to say.
So I ordered my wife's Mach-E. I'm trying to pull it up now. And it has the 3-year trial on it, but it cost. I'm trying to pull it up and see what it was. It's taking forever to load, but here we go.
But so Jace and Joe, you'll get to finish out your 3 years.
Yeah.
But if I were to, again, taking Joe's example, buy a Mustang Mach-E in March of 24, you're saying that would fall into kind of the new structure?
No, it's free, 3 years included. I'm showing the camera.
For 23 Mustangs?
Yeah, 2023 Mustang Mach-E. It's a Blue Cruise 1.3, 3 years included, and then it you pay afterwards. So.
I don't know. Yeah, it may not have changed yet, but it is changing soon. Basically, what it is, I'm looking at it right here. So basically, it's a 3-year commitment costing. You can do it, which is what I would probably do. My partner and I, we would just lump it into the loan when we buy the vehicle. It would be $2,100 if you wanted to do that. So you could just lump it right in. I'm hoping, in my opinion, I would love to see Ford maybe package some other things that you could get with that $2,100. So maybe additional value. Feedback that I've offered to them is how about folks with 2 Blue Cruise enabled EVs? 75 a month per EV for Blue Cruise is a lot. If we were going the subscription route, so it's 75 a month or 800 a year. You do get a 90-day complimentary bonus trial, to get to try it. Or like I said, you can pump it in for 2,100 at the beginning of the loan. So that's probably what we would end up doing. But I'd love to see something creative to kind of make it a little bit, a little more bang for your buck for people who maybe have 2 Ford EVs, 3 Ford EVs. I mean, you know what I mean? There's
right.
Sergio, so. And think, ICE F-150 has Blue Cruise too, and Blue Cruise is coming. Ford has announced a few months ago a lot more vehicles standard.
Yep.
Yeah.
So we're going to see a lot of vehicles with Blue Cruise on them. I would love to see some creativity in how to then maximize that value for the consumers, because 2,100, even 75 a month, 800 a year, it's a hard pill to swallow right now. After driving 1.3, I do. It's that good of a difference, and it's adding features on top of it, not just refining. So if they keep heading in that direction, maybe I'll feel a little bit differently. But yeah.
Well, and I was talking to another person that went to the auto show with us named John, who loves his Blue Cruise on his Lightning, and he was saying
from Ohio.
Yeah. I wasn't going to name drop, but. Yeah,
he's part of the Great Lakes Lightning Club with Jace.
Yes,
come on now, we can't leave him out.
Fellow admin.
I know. I'm still courting invitations, but so he pointed out, you say I think it was 800 a year or 75 a month, which may sound like, well, why would I ever do one over the other? However, he pointed out you could just maybe in the summer months when you're going to road trip, say I'm going to do 75 and 75 for the 2 months when I'm traveling a lot, and then not do it the other 10 months of the year. And so I do think, I think it would mean a lot for Ford to offer that flexibility rather than say you're going to pay an annual amount. So just another nugget of feedback, not that I'm going to get to make the most of it anyways.
Well, I mean, it sounds like you're sold on the Blue Cruise. I mean, you could switch your XLT for a used Lariat a little cheaper, and you got Blue Cruise. I'm just saying. Don't tell your wife, but I'm not helping.
I don't need that kind of suggestion.
Yeah.
And my wife's going to say I'm not allowed to podcast with you guys anymore if she hears that kind of talk.
To your point, though, Joe, I'll tell you, they've made Blue Cruise so good, in my opinion, though, that I would struggle to do that. I would honestly, I don't like Blue Cruise just for road trips. We use Blue Cruise all the time.
Yeah. I use it every morning I drive to work. Every morning.
There's highways everywhere I want to go. They're taking a highway pretty much, and pretty much every single Blue Cruise enabled. So it's tough to say. Like I don't know if I could do that. I really don't. I would try maybe.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Well, and they're using a tried and true tactic of like, let's give them a taste of how incredible this product is, and then they're going to want to continue using it. And I fell hook, line, and sinker for that with what they showed me in Detroit. So just a positive shout out to everyone who arranged those ride-alongs. I mean, I don't think many companies would just throw people behind the wheel of their expensive vehicles and open themselves up vulnerably to that kind of feedback. So very impressed with the fact that they did that. I do want to take a moment and say hey to Kurt, who is active in the chat right now. Thanks for tuning in, Kurt. Sorry we missed you in Detroit. You missed out on some cool stuff. So looking at the agenda from our trip, Jace, what was the next thing that really stood out to you after the Blue Cruise ride-alongs?
Mustang Night. Oh my gosh, Mustang Night. That was honestly, like, I thought F-150 Fest was so cool. Everything we did was so cool, right? But there was something about Mustang Night that just blew me away. I'm a huge racing fan. I grew up racing go-karts, mini sprints, everything, four-wheelers. So that's just like and my dad was a huge Mustang fan, owned, old Mustangs, and wow. I mean, it was impressive. Like the GTD specifically was, I want one. I mean, Justin insane. There at this point, my significant other was able to meet us there at the show. And oh my gosh, like what an impressive car. We want one. We know we could never afford one. It's like the cost of our house, but like, I want it. I want it, you know. So the active aero DRS, basically, I mean, that's so crazy cool. So Mustang Night really stuck out to me, just the venue and everything. I thought was really, really cool.
Well, as someone who attended, who I've never identified myself as like a diehard Mustang person,
Sure.
so I won't pretend to be one now. But the way, just to fill people in that weren't there, including Joe, the way they announced this vehicle, the way they framed it was they had the two racing drivers out there for Ford, and they said, and they were speaking originally, Jace, about which Mustang, the race, like the racing version that would be at Le Mans, right?
Yeah,
Which
the
is called
GT3 and the
the
GT4.
okay. So, and they
Two
said,
different
like, what
classes,
would you
basically, but yeah.
right? And they said to the racing drivers, whose names escape me at this moment,
Yeah,
what would you
Joey
change about this
Hand, and I
vehicle?
forget who the other one is, but yeah.
They said, what would you change if there were no rules, if there were no racing regulations that you were trapped underneath? And they kind of said, like, here's everything we would do if there were no rules. And then they unveil it, which to someone who isn't like super up to speed on Mustang and their racing division, really showed me like this is truly the top of the line Mustang just on steroids when you unchain the beast, truly.
Yeah.
Um, and also, I think they did a good job of explaining to people like me, like Mustang is one of the few, if not the only vehicles that's offering a vehicle at every like level from consumer
Mm-hmm.
base model all the way up through, Le Mans and now beyond,
Yeah.
which really hammered home like this is not just a vehicle. Like this
Right.
is really something.
It's a
It's a
culture.
Like did that
lifestyle,
Yeah.
yeah, well, and a vehicle that's capable of competing at all these different levels, it was
Mhm.
truly impressive. I mean, it sounds like Jace, you had a firmer grasp on like what you were seeing. To me, they were just a bunch of really cool Mustangs. But like, do you want to elaborate on all the different things we were seeing there?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, they had like Joey Logano's Mustang there. We had a NHRA Mustang. I'm not sure what driver it was, but we had the GT3, the GT4 was there, which are basically two separate classes within
Mm-hmm.
the Le Mans series, and you probably maybe seen like the 24 Hours of Daytona.
Yeah.
Maybe now since you've seen that Mustang's making its way back. And I think really in that same vein, what's so cool is that Ford is committing to racing. More importantly, they view it as a tool to help in their production, their consumer production with their vehicles, as a marketing tool, of course, right? And at a time where a lot of automakers are leaving auto racing, F1 kind of the opposite of that, just because of where they are right now and its extreme growth here in the United States. But really, most automakers are kind of headed, out from auto racing. Just too many financial commitments that they're just not willing to make. They don't see the returns. I think it's so cool to see Ford fly in the face of that and just no, we're going full bore. We're gonna, like Jim Farley said in that keynote, like this thing almost didn't happen like 5 or 6 different times. This GTD, like this was not something that was easy. It had to be fought for. But that's what made it such a great product, right? They kept reiterating it. They came out with something, and they're like, "No, that's not. We want no rules," like you said, and they seemingly accomplished it. I mean, the two drivers they had are very impressive with their repertoires, and they had nothing but insane things to say, and I mean, it's up there in price, obviously, but I mean, it's like pretty much insane, obviously Mustang ever, but I mean, one of the most insane production cars, ever is, and except for maybe some of the high end, Porsches and, stuff like that. But it's pretty impressive for an American automaker, one of the big three, especially to be doing these things right now when nobody else is doing them.
Yeah, I mean, what more can we say, Joe, to get you hyped about joining the Mustang family here in the near future?
Yeah.
Well, and also it's just cool to be driving on the road. And yeah, I mean, sure, let's say the Lightning and the Mustang are two completely different animals, but we still live under one family, and it's
Sure.
still got that badge on the front. And it still gets me excited to see stuff like that, even though I also will never be able to afford the GTD.
Yeah.
And it also, the gravity of that moment, them unveiling that vehicle, was amplified again. I'm looking around and seeing even more faces I recognize from media outlets and YouTube channels. Like, you saw my tweet with Andre behind me,
Yeah.
and like Mitch from TC Customs. I mean, you could tell this was a big moment because they wouldn't have flown to Detroit for
Yep.
anything less. So a very cool moment for me, just as a person, to be in a room with them and Jim Farley and those racers and see that vehicle in person. Every picture I see, it looks mean, but it doesn't feel the same as seeing it like 30 feet away.
Oh,
Yeah, it looks insane. Yeah, it's like major slow-mo.
Yeah, and then finally we capped off Wednesday night with an evening meal. Is there anything that you want to share from that experience, Jace?
We did have.
Yeah,
we had the opportunity to speak to some Ford employees there. That was really cool. Just another honest feedback opportunity where we got to just talk Lightning and Mach-E, what we love about them. We talked a lot about the Great Lakes Lightning, or not Great Lakes Lightning Clubs, I should say, the Northeast Lightning Club and the other affiliate clubs. We talked about those a lot, and so your ears were probably ringing or burning or whatever they say, Joe, that night, because we were chatting about you. But it's all good stuff. It really was. So, and just again, feedback to the team, what we love, what we maybe don't love, and how Ford can help support us, and in this adventure that we're all on of building this amazing community of Ford EV owners.
Well, and this for some reason sparks my memory of Pete. Like, I got to know Pete so well. He's been on the podcast before. He talked with us about Operation Silent Skies. I don't know if I made that up or if that's what they called it, but
something like that. That's the video.
Yeah, where with the electric plane. And so he seized his moment to really expound upon that experience to Ford employees, and you could see the look in their eyes that they were like, this is the beauty of what we're doing, is that people are thinking outside the box and doing incredible things with these vehicles. The one conversation, so shout out to Pete. He's great. I love him to death. I can't wait to see him again in person. He's such a joy to be around.
I get to see him this weekend. I'm pumped. I always love hanging out with Pete.
He's awesome.
He's just like an Energizer battery. Like,
he really is.
Like, hyped all the time. Yeah. I loved hanging out with him. And so the one conversation I took away from that night that I really reflect back on positively is I was speaking to a Ford employee, and like, one thing, I don't know if you noticed this, Jace, but like that group that we were with, like, you could tell we may not have a lot of people in our life that share this passion. And so when you put 20 of us together, it was just like explosion all the time of finally being able to talk about charging and all these things that we're passionate about.
Yep.
So we're in that room with the Ford employees, and I shot my shot. I found a segue in to say, like, maybe like a more city-oriented compact electric truck. And what really struck me is the Ford employee, she didn't shoot it down, but she said, what is the soul of that vehicle? Answer that question. What's the soul of this vehicle that you're saying we should make? And it really put me on the spot. I don't know if I won her over, but to know that that's the genesis of every single thing they're putting out is like, not just who's it for, not just what does it do, but like, what is at the core of this thing that no other vehicle has had before, and that's why we have to make it.
Yep.
It's just, I mean, I'm a nurse. Jace does roofs, like, it was so interesting to peel back the curtain on what they do and understand it's really more than just like drawings on a whiteboard.
So much more.
And these products, the Mach-E and the Lightning, Ford does a really good job of taking these nameplates that they have history with, some of the, like, if not the best history, so to speak, in the like world, right? Like, these products, 50 best-selling vehicle for 46 years, Mustang, most, prolific sports car maybe in all of history, human history, right? As in conjunction maybe with Corvette and Camaro. I mean, but they're huge recognizable nameplates, and Ford, instead of running from that, they really took it head on and inspired like a new generation of, and maybe people who own those vehicles already, right? Like the ICE versions, they still, I mean, we owned, 4 ICE F-150s, and we have never felt so passionate about, an F-150 before.
Yeah,
And so
exactly.
they've done a great job at taking these nameplates that they have history with and basically re-engineering them, right? Reworking them, reinventing yourself, but still keeping that history. And I think that is really, really, really cool. And I don't know of really any other like automaker that's doing that. I don't see like the meaning and the history behind it, which I think that's really, really cool.
Yeah, so not to rub it in, Joe, but there were some really cool conversations. We got to meet some really cool people that night. And I just wanted you to know that the story that you took part in with Operation Silent Skies did make it to people's ears that hadn't heard about it before. And they were very excited by it, which
Yeah.
means we're going to have to get Remy on the line and do that cross-country flight presently.
Make it actually happen. That'd be crazy.
Hey,
Yeah.
just land at Burke Lakefront in Cleveland, and I'll be happy to give you a boost.
Some juice, yeah.
Yeah.
So that wrapped up Wednesday,
Yep.
if I remember correctly, Jace.
Yes.
And then we woke up Thursday, and that was the day that I had to leave. But we crammed in some exciting
Yes.
stuff that morning, which
Yes.
took place at the Ford Archives.
Yeah. Oh gosh, like that. Yeah, I said the Mustang night was one of my favorite things too, but I have to say the Ford Archives was really up there too. Sorry, Joe. Sorry, I'm so sorry.
You're good. You're good.
The Ford Archives was really cool. Ted Ryan and his team were so kind to us. I'd followed Ted out for a long time on Twitter, so to get to meet him in person and the rest of his team and see what the things that we saw. I mean, just so much history in that room, right? Like incredible things. And I think something that surprised me the most was and of course, they were ready for us. We're EV lovers and drivers, right? And owners, but Ford truly has more of a history with EVs than I think a lot of people think and know about. Clara Ford drove a Detroit Electric, vehicle.
Yep.
So many little things that they tried, the letters from Edison to Henry Ford trying to sell him on his, new battery tech and, in 1912 or whatever,
Yeah.
These things were so incredible. So, yeah, just very, very cool. We saw the Lightning prototype.
That
That's
I was
what I
really
was
jealous
hoping to.
of.
Yeah, pulled
Yeah.
the 1,000,000 pounds or whatever it was, back in the day.
Mhm.
Super cool to see how they did that, how that was engineered, and obviously much different from, the modern day Lightning.
I'm not sure who posted the photo of Pete laying underneath it though. My favorite
Hilarious.
photo of that truck was Pete
He's like
underneath it.
like we're looking at it. I look over. He's on the floor underneath the truck. I'm like, oh, this is awesome. This is just
It's
He
so
did
cool.
not hesitate. He did not hesitate. He was
Nope.
under there with a flashlight.
Was he
Yeah.
really?
Oh yeah, and they
Well,
took
Oh,
us
that's great.
eventually. I mean, it was awesome.
Yeah, I think his main question was, where's the battery? He was like, did they nail the battery placement right off the start?
Yeah.
Was it in the
Yeah.
truck bed? Like, he had no idea.
That's
So
exactly
that
where
was-
my mind went too, was what's underneath and what they do to it.
Yeah, and it was pretty similar, Yeah, it was. I mean,
Yeah.
close, different. Obviously, it's much more integrated, now and stuff. But I mean, the concept was the same.
That's so cool.
Well,
Yep,
and I think it pointed out to me, like, people, when the Lightning launched, said that, not me, I didn't say this, but some of the sentiment was like, they didn't make any brave choices because it looks so much like a normal F-150. But seeing that and comparing it to my Lightning, you
That's a
really
great
grasp how much they actually had to change that vehicle to make it work and flow the way that we experience it every day. It was way more than plop the battery in.
Definitely more optimized from what we saw, right? And I think that's I've heard somebody say like that thing with as big of a battery as it only had like 100 miles or something, of range or something,
Wow.
and
Right.
That's how much optimization had to be done to really make this truck work, right?
Yeah.
And I thought that was so cool to see. They had a Bronco in styrofoam. And that was a really cool story. Bronco is all about modularity, right? And having, being able to plug and play different accessories, right? And so the way they did that is built them out of styrofoam, and then they kind of put them together and, see what works, what fits, what doesn't.
Yeah.
And, very easily and cheaply, figure out all those things.
I got excited for a second. I thought you were going to say that was made out of a EV Bronco or something.
Oh,
I wish.
man, that'd be fun. Yeah, the arrow on that would not work.
No, oh god, no.
From what
Yeah.
yeah, but the weight would out of styrofoam. I mean, shoot, you can go
Yeah.
locked in. But no, yeah, that was really cool. The styrofoam Ford GT we saw, that was
Yep.
that was so cool. And they have coolers of film. I mean, gosh, it was like over 2 million rolls of film and 2 million
Yeah.
something in the other cooler, and you're walking
Yeah.
through the aisle, and it's like, the Mustang commercial that ran nationwide from 1967 to 1968. It's
Wow.
just like the tail in
Yeah.
the back. That's awesome.
I don't know if anyone saw
Yeah.
that.
It's just a tail. I'm like, what the heck, man?
Well, to build on what you said, Jace, like as someone who's trying to make YouTube content about Ford vehicles, and as someone who's relatively new to Ford, like I really enjoyed that room. It was like 40 degrees cooler to preserve the film.
Yep.
But you stood there and you looked at they were literally just rolls of film
Yep.
with in these blue plastic kind of shields and then handwriting on the outside that looked decades old.
Mm-hmm.
And so to be like, God, what I would give to just see like an F-150 commercial from 30 years ago. And sure, you can go on YouTube and find some stuff, but to know that it's all right there, I was like, oh, it would just be so cool to have kind of that as inspiration to draw from moving forward. But then on top of that, exciting stuff like old races from Le Mans, and it was very cool to be in that room and feel the history. And they are in the process of digitizing that whole collection, I believe.
Oh, yes, wow. I believe so. I heard something about that. I can't. There was a lot of data flying around the whole week, so it's hard to remember it all. But I did remember them saying something about that. We also got to go to another room where they had like more of a museum type style setup where they had some glass cases. But that's where I saw the letter from Edison to Henry Ford and talking about the electric vehicles and their battery tech. And I mean, it just so cool and such fascinating history. It really, really was neat.
And I'm going to put you on the spot, Jace, with a bit of trivia, but I don't remember the answer, so say whatever you want. It's the bit about Kingston charcoal. Does this ring a bell?
Yes, this is a true story. Yeah, it was started. Oh gosh, it was Kingsford Charcoal was started.
Oh, there you go.
By Ford. I believe they used the charcoal from, it was like an extract sort of thing that an extra thing that they got for or something, and so they took that and they used it, and it was originally like Ford charcoal. It was sold, and then I believe Kingsford or whoever, Kings or whoever was worked for Ford, and he then took it and started Kingsford.
Wow.
I just noticed that the word Ford is in Kingsford. So, okay, I'm connecting the dots now.
Yep. So, and he took it and he started Kingsford Charcoal. And I believe it's owned by like the Clorox Corporation today. But yeah.
But it's weird little stuff like that I would have gone my whole life without knowing. And this experience, because of this experience, now we know that. And now we got to see all that cool stuff, like the styrofoam vehicles. It felt like seeing like a Da Vinci schematic, because you're like, this isn't the thing he made, but like this was where he had the light bulb idea. Like that's what it felt like seeing those styrofoam cutouts of like this was the birth, and now every Bronco I drive past started right here with hands on this thing. It was, I know I'm harping on it, but it was just very cool to reach out and touch that thing that started these exciting chapters of Ford. It was really cool.
It was really, really cool. We got to then also see some of Henry Ford's artwork collection. I believe they were Norman Rockwell pieces.
Wow.
Stunning, and not just those. There was other, old Ford, ads or memorabilia. One stuck out to me, something like "Buy your wife a Ford." It's all she.
I took a picture of that one.
Yeah, that was great. Like
had to be like from the 50s, right?
Oh yeah. She's in her apron. They're like, "Buy your wife a Ford." It's just like those little things were really, really neat to see, and pictures of Henry Ford's office. I know in that building is there is a Henry Ford office that he actually used. and it's still like exactly the same. Like they preserved it. You can't walk in it, but you can like see it. But I think they're doing construction or something up there, so we'll see it at that time. But you know, I mean, there's in those buildings, it is truly, truly, truly incredible.
Well, and there was plenty of stuff. I don't want to make it sound like we had all access. There was plenty of stuff that they were not ready to show us. And I think it's exciting it's kind of like a magic trick. If you see the trick, it's like the magic's gone. And so I think seeing like it left that question mark at the end of the whole journey of like, what are they coming up with next? It's right there. We drove past the building that said future vehicle concepts. Like, and I was like, if one of us just jumps off the bus right now, like we could probably sneak in there. Which was so cool. Another thing that stood out to me from the archives as a medical professional is he had, and it's not, I don't think they pulled this out for us. Like, I think they just proudly display it all the time, was the ventilator that they made with Ford parts that were lying around.
Oh, yes. And the full body suit.
Yeah. And they had a plaque stating how many that they did end up making. I don't remember off the top of my head, but it was big.
This is from the pandemic, right?
Yeah. And so, again, like having met Ford engineers and like having had that experience, now it was really cool as someone who's not a tinkerer to know like they put their mind to it and like had that ready to go. It was just a cool thing to see, and also compare it to what I use at work, and I'm like, this is crazy, like that they just made this out of car parts. So very cool to see.
Ted kind of explaining it, this is a blower from like a radiator or something, I mean, the way he was like, part by part, he knew exactly what they used and what they reused and blah blah blah. And it was really cool to see that.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Well, and then I hopped on a plane and left. So if you, Jace, had anything cool that happened to you after we left, that like, because you were going to go to the Henry Ford Museum?
Yeah, we did end up going to the Henry Ford Museum right after we took a group photo in front of the headquarters. I think you were there for the group photo, right? You were there, yeah. So you left right after that, yeah. So we did end up going to the Henry Ford Museum. I had been once before, actually last year, like 1 year ago exactly, to that moment. I was at the Henry Ford with Maki Vlog and a few others, and so it was great to visit there again. My significant other had not seen it yet, so I really wanted to show him that, and just that again is very similar to the Ford Archives, just an incredible history inside that. Not just, a lot of people I think, oh, the Henry Ford Museum, like it's about Ford, it's about cars, and definitely is a car, centric, museum.
Yeah.
But it's so much more than that. It's so much more than that. It's really about America and the history from, let's say 1990 or 1900s to, 20, to 23, whatever. So it's really a neat place. If you haven't been, I encourage everybody listening to go and see it. Drive up, it's worth the drive. Joseph, if you ever decide to like drive up, or you Joe too, I'll meet you there, because it's that cool of a place to go to.
Well, and finally, to wrap up, I can't believe I blinked. We've already been talking for over an hour about this. But I guess the last thing, just to put a pin on an amazing week from Ford, and I'll reiterate, like, thank you to everyone that made that happen. I'm so glad I got to meet people like Jace and Sergio and everybody in person. Pete, we did get to have another meal with some Ford employees, and basically the question I posed was, because we, charging comes up, we're in a group of EV owners, was what do we think a Model E charging station will look like at a Ford dealership? And so just to cap off the night, like, I'm going to pose that question to you two, like, as Ford EV customers, what do you imagine that looking like in a perfect world? Like, you're planning your road trip, you see that there's a Model E dealer on the way to your route. What makes you like, that's a must stop charge for me?
Go ahead, Joe.
That's tough. I mean, I don't. Usually, it's amenities for me at a charge stop. I have the little guy, so he's usually got to use the restroom anyways. So, if it's during business hours, I'm all in. I'll definitely be able to stop there, and if it's at night or anything like that, I don't really don't really see an advantage to stopping there. From
Yeah.
a family perspective.
Yeah.
But out of like, if it's just me and I'm a tech nerd and I want to see every brand new charger that gets put in the ground, I'll stop there.
Yeah.
I don't care, what it is. Just the fact that they would add more chargers to the network is what makes me less anxious about charger anxiety. That's the big thing that I have right now is charger anxiety. We're seeing it widespread now. If that takes that away more, that I'll add it into whatever route I'm going. I'll again, I always let the truck pick the chargers anyways, and I double check them before I go. But if it picks a Ford dealer, I can't imagine they're going to be down and brand new.
Yeah.
You could certainly
Joe
hope
with
so.
his trust the truck mentality that I still have not adopted quite yet. But I'll put it to you, Jace.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's an interesting question. We've seen some dealers of another OEM. I don't want to say who, but Bowtie brands, it hasn't gone so well in some situations. We've seen a few. Kyle Connor went out to one. They had a G headquarter EV thing, and it was closed on Sunday. And that's tough. We'll see kind of what the rules end up being. I think accessibility is huge. If people show up and they can't use them, it's going to be tough. But again, if they're clearly labeled, and it adds more options, I'm all for it. We need more options at this point. I don't care what it is.
Yep.
A lot of the dealers in Ohio and Michigan are by amenities, so that's good. I don't want to speak for other states, but here in Cleveland, all the Ford dealers that I know of, except for actually the one that I go to the most, is by a restaurant. Except for the one that I go to, that one is not by a restaurant. But otherwise, pretty much everyone that I know of is by some sort of amenities or very close to them. So not necessarily near a highway, right, or maybe a major highway. So I think as long as they're smart about it, especially if those dealers, there's actually a dealer in northern Michigan, in West Branch, Michigan. It's right along I-75. It's like a perfect spot. There's a bunch of restaurants nearby. It kind of fills a little bit of a gap. And Dean Arbor Ford, they've had their chargers up and running now for, I want to say, like 6 to 8 months. I believe they're at least 175 kilowatts. They've got at least 4, I want to say. They were really early to the game. That is like a perfect, place to, stop and charge. I want to say Dean Arbor Ford, from last I looked, they're open 24/7, not the dealership themselves, but the chargers. So great, that's awesome. So, if done properly and done in the right, way, I really do think they can help. Will they maybe be the first place that people stop? Maybe not, but we're filling gaps, and that's what we need right now, to really alleviate some of that charge and range anxiety. Oh, and really quick, I wanted to add one more thing. Sorry. That we did on Friday that I have to mention is the Cars and Coffee at the Piquette plant, as I believe. Yes. It was super cool. We had people there. Our Paul, who works for Ford, had a cappuccino machine or espresso machine in his Francuccino, I think is what it's calling, or something like that. That was really cool. He was handing out little 3D parts. He gave me a little lightning badge, and he gave me the cage that people put over the little.
Oh man.
So I got one of those. So
cool.
That little stuff. I mean, that just those communities and talking to people, and we had a great turnout. I mean, we had over 20 cars at least. We had our extended range Lightning there. There was a really cool Mad Max made Model T thing that this guy had with solar panels on the top, and he takes it down to get coffee with it, and it has a bunch of old Model T parts. It's all electric. I mean, there was some really, really cool stuff. So I just wanted to mention that, because that could not go without mentioning on Friday morning. It was very, very cool.
Yeah, I'm bummed that I had to peel before that, but I also would have been jealous because I didn't have my truck to show off there. So
Yeah.
But also, I almost think you, having only been to one Cars and Coffee, that might take a little bit of the pressure off to just go and be an observer of like, let's see what everybody else is doing and innovating with their truck.
Yep.
Because when Joe and I pulled up in I forget what town
Maryland,
in
Bethesda.
Washington, there you go, in Bethesda, all I did was pop open my frunk and I had luggage in there. That's all I got. And that, but to see what
It's
people
enough.
are doing with their Lightnings, yeah, and to get Ford Sync tutorials from Joe's son was pretty eye opening. I learned about OTA updates and stuff, so give him a shout for me. Thanks, Joe.
Absolutely.
We plugged in my standard range to Justin's electric range the other day at a Drive Electric event, and it's just those little things that I mean, opening the frunk does it. People are blown away even just by that. But I'm like, I think I'm gonna charge my truck with Justin's truck. I'm like, I think people will love that.
So
and
this upcoming weekend, we have our Drive Electric event in Schenectady. It's the largest one of attendees, and we beat it. We were number one last year, and we were very surprised to hit number one already this year. So they actually have me powering a local radio station who's coming out and going to be broadcasting live from the event. And I think we're powering a bunch of other stuff too. There's so many different vendors that are coming as well, and we're doing ride and drives, and it's going to be huge. I think we have 8 Lightnings coming, if I remember correctly. It's awesome. It's going to be really cool. So
we just had our two. And it was, I mean, that's. But I think we had 3 or 4 ICE F-150 owners there that showed up just to see the Lightning. They didn't even know it was going to be there, but they were in like the mall parking lot at the same time, and they own ICE F-150, and they were like, oh, like we've been talking about, seeing those, and so they came questions, and not the biggest turnout like you guys, but I mean, at least still it was it was fruitful. We really did have great conversations, and so that was awesome.
And I think that these events are huge for not only the adoption but the community itself. Being able to talk to real world owners, and this is the same reason we do this podcast, is our real world experience is going to send so much more of a message than a commercial on TV. And I think Ford knows that too, and I think they're starting to harness that. So
we had the city workers there that worked for the city of Fairlawn, where Summit Mall is. They were, the one guy was a huge Ford guy. She kind of warned me. She's like, the guy wants to come over to talk to you. He's a huge Ford owner, like Ford fan. He loves Ford, but he's super skeptical. Will you talk to him? I'm like, sure.
Yep.
Talk to him. Talk for him for a long time. Answered some of the questions, and they run the city service, commission, and so I know, after our conversations that they are absolutely going to look at the electric in the future for their city trucks.
Yep.
Well, Jace, you reminded me of the new iPhones with like charging one with the other. So I just wanted to point out that parallel. And once we stop going live, I'm going to ask you about your new iPhone 15.
Okay.
But
okay.
I do want to give each of you a lighthearted piece of homework as we try to get this podcast happening more regularly. Because the only reason I bring up the Model E charging stations, I know I'm circling back here, but how exciting for Ford to be able to decide what this looks like literally from the ground up. Like, what do they want that charging experience to be? What are the charging speeds? What are they offering? And so the lighthearted homework would be like, kind of brainstorm, like, what in a dreamland, what does that look like to you guys? And I'll do the same, because I think I was talking to another person while we were in Detroit, another Ford employee, of like, that's where the EV community truly comes together. So I just wanted to pose that to you guys. So think on it until our next podcast. Maybe Absolutely. Ford will adopt 1 or 2 of our ideas if we're lucky.
I love it.
All right. So it's been an hour and 23 minutes. I want to say thanks to Jace and Joe for, helping us relive an amazing week, seeing a bunch of cool stuff from Ford and other automakers in Detroit. So thanks for watching, guys. And I'll kick it to you guys to sign off, and that'll be it.
We'll see you next time.
Yeah, sounds good. Yeah, thanks, guys, so much. This was fun.